I'm sorry, that's a money joke. I tried to sell you on it. No, I'm sorry. All right, now, the next thing I need to talk to you about is this notion of even or odd functions. This tends to get people, and it doesn't have to. It's not that bad. Let me move this out of the way so you can see it better. Okay, now you can see everything. There are a lot of functions that people study in life, business, science, and so forth. It helps us to be able to distinguish between an even function and an odd function. An even function is where f of negative x equals f of x. Or you have the same y value for opposite x values. Notice in this case the y-axis is serving as a line of symmetry, a lot like your body has a line of symmetry. Hope that makes sense. Now, what is an odd function? An odd function is where f of negative x is equal to negative f of x. Now, if you understand that completely, fine. If not, you may think I'm talking some ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, okay? But really, you can understand this. So let's break it down. Here I have a graph. F of x is equal to x squared. So square 0, I get 0. Square 1, I get 1. Square 2, I get 4. Now here's my table of values right here. Now my question is, what is f of 1? F of 1 is 1. What is f of negative 1? F of negative 1 is 1. Don't they have the same y value? Yes, they do. So for a different value on the domain and the range, they have the same y value. That is the idea of an even function. Notice f of negative 2 is 4 and f of 2 is 4. They're both the same. That is it. Now, how can you tell if a function is an even function just by looking at the algebra? Well, whenever the power is even, the function is an even function. Now here's an example. G of x is x to the fourth plus x squared plus 2. Is that an even function? Well, if I moved that function up 2, it still has the y-axis splitting it down the middle, so yes, it is an even function. Can we reword that as a rule to help me in my work? Yes, we can. To see if a function is an even function, look at the powers. If all of the powers are even, it's an even function. If you have a constant, that's okay. You can have a constant in an even function. All right, so we're through with the even function. Now let's look at an odd function. Not that there's something strange or wacky about it, but the notion or the concept of an odd function. Here we would have f of negative x is equal to negative f of x. All right, what does that mean? Well, what that means is f of 1 is 1 and f of negative 1 is negative 1. Let's try that again. F of 2 is what? 8. So f of 2 is 8. So what's f of negative 2? It's negative f of 2. Or if you don't like that, if the opposite domain values are located, then the y values would be opposite. Notice how the curve looks. Kind of looks like a propeller, part of a propeller, okay? That is the notion of an odd function. Now, is there some symmetry with an odd function? Yes, there is. There is what's called point symmetry. Point symmetry with that particular point right there, which is the origin. So remember that when we're talking about an odd function. All right, so how can you tell if a function is an odd function or not? Well, look at all the algebra in the expression of the function. That's odd power and x by itself is 1, so that's an odd power. That is an odd function. You could actually put that on your graphing calculator and see. Now how about this function right here? F of x is equal to x plus 3. Well, that's a good question. So what would f of x equal x look like? That would just be a line going like that. What if it's plus 3? That means that I moved that line up 3. Now my question to you is, look at that line. Is that line symmetric with the origin? Does it have point symmetry with the origin? And the answer is no, it does not. So when we're talking about an odd function, if all of the powers are odd, it's an odd function. What if there's a constant? It's a no-go, okay? You cannot have a constant in an odd function, so keep that in mind. And one last thing about this, if you have a mixture of even or odd powers, it's neither. It's neither odd nor is it even. So I hope that makes sense, because you're going to see that from time to time as you study more about functions. Well, I think that's all I had to say about this unit. I hope that you do well, and look for other videos in this lesson discussion that may help you. Thank you.